Share this. Share it to the masses. Well, I think I'm heard, but I have to check myself at this point. Hello. I am live. How about that? The more you know. Welcome to Absolutely Nobody. This is Technical Foul, episode 40, with yours truly, JP, live in, not studio, live in a house in Starkville, Mississippi. It is Sunday, July 13th, 2025. Just 2 hours ago, Carlos Alcaraz lost to Jannik Sinner in the final at Wimbledon. It was a great matchup. Thoroughly enjoyed watching it. Alcaraz was able to he played really well in that first set, and then the following three sets, Jannik Sinner was just on. I mean, the guy did not miss a single shot. His play. Alcaraz is usually a guy that is someone who plays with a lot of energy, plays with a pep in his step, plays with a lot of confidence, plays with a smile on his face a ton. And I mean, Yannick was just working that boy for 3 hours after the first set, and it was really a sight to see. It was certainly surprising, given that it was Yannick's first opportunity on a stage that big in Wimbledon. But Yannick was able to get it done and win in a 3-1 victory, 6-4, 6-4, 6-4, 6-4. Were all of them. There was only, there's one break in each of the three sets Yannick won, and then there were three breaks in that first set. But man, what a incredible Wimbledon final, pushed back 2 hours later than it normally is, which was new for me. I usually like getting up early and watching it first thing, and then I got up at 8 a.m. and realized that it got pushed back 2 more hours, and so I went back to sleep. But it was well worth it. It made it interesting. Made the sun really came into play, especially in the third and fourth set, which is not something that's typical for a Wimbledon final. But the sun was certainly a factor, serving into the shadows, and then baseball is really the only other sport where you can have a comparison, except for football. Really, the only time it happens is when you're trying to receive a punt, or in the Dallas Cowboys Stadium, it happens 3 or 4 times of the year when they play in those afternoon games. But I've really never experienced it, but I've experienced it playing angle ball a little bit when we've played those sunset games. It's got to be super challenging to track a serve, whether it's coming from the sun or the shadows, especially when that serve's going 140 miles an hour. So that doesn't make it any easier when it's hard to track it then on top of that, because of you're staring into the sun, or it's coming from the sun into the shadows. But I mean, these guys are the best players in the world, so they kind of do it no problem, and it really looks like there's not really much of a difference, whether you're serving into the sun or not. So yeah, at this point, I'll get into what I want to talk about, which I am going to spend the first 20 minutes or so talking about Rainbow Six Siege, game that I play a ton, specifically professional. I don't play professional, but I want to specifically talk about professional. It has been a fun start to the season. The North American League, European League, South American League have all finished their their first stage is what they call it. It's essentially the regular season. For Siege, they're in a league of, each of them in a league of 10 teams. And they play each of the teams once over the course of 3 to 4 weeks. And so they've all finished up that first season. After this, they'll go to playoffs, which will happen this week and next week. And then that will decide who gets to go to the major. And then you play the major. And after that, you come back and you play stage 2, and you play to make the next major, depending how you do in stage 2. And then in terms of how many points you gather throughout all that time, you get to the spot where you can play in the Rainbow Six Siege Invitational, which will be at the beginning of next year. NAL has been really great. Spoit with Shopify Rebellion, he makes his move finally from M80 over to Shopify, and they have really dominated. They went undefeated for the third time anyone has ever gone undefeated through the course of an entire stage. Only one overtime win was really different. So they were 8-1, 0-0, which in Siege for their standings they do. There's 4 different columns, 2 for winning, 2 for losing. If you win without going to overtime, you get a full 3 points. Winning but going to overtime is 2 points. Losing in overtime is 1 point. And then if you lose without going to overtime, you get 0 points. But NAL, Shopify dominated. Spoit beat M80 yesterday in a really dramatic fashion, and I got to give them a ton of credit for that team. It's such a crazy team. It's what a collection of people, really. Canadian, who some view as really the GOAT of Rainbow Six Siege, has just been playing for so long, and he's still the IGL of this team, and he's leading them very well. You have Rexon, who's a good player, Surf as well, who both played with Shopify in the most recent Siege Invitational. And then Ambi joins the team. He's a young hotshot gunner who is really technically sound, and he makes some of the craziest plays you've really ever seen. Tons of clutches, is an excellent fragger. And he kind of shows the new age of Siege that we're really seeing, this kind of run and gun approach, this don't really care for being super tactical, taking gaps, seeing gaps, taking gaps. That's really kind of the way Siege is played these days in the rank sphere, and Ambi is a perfect version of that in Pro League. And then Spoit comes over from M80, he's been with M80 forever. After they made a bunch of moves to try and bolster a team for the Siege Invitational, it doesn't go well. They have the big moment with their head coach where he gets kind of banned, and they never really kind of gain their footing after that. And then M80, decides to let Spoit walk. Spoit goes to Shopify Rebellion, and he's been incredible again for Shopify. I got to give him a ton of credit. Making that kind of move is not easy. It felt like he was going to be joining the European League because he lives in the UK, and he has to spend all of this time flying over to the US and playing with them and practicing with them. And if he's doing scrims while he's in the UK, he's on UK ping. But he committed really this time. He flew over about 30 days prior to when the season started, and he streamed there a ton, practiced with them a ton, and it has shown. They've played really, really well. I mean, he's really committed to his craft, and he doesn't really want to mess around anymore because while he's only 20 or 21 years old, he's still kind of in the latter stages of his career. I mean, you think about Pengu, who is one of the greats in the history of the game. We all think of him as like an unk. He's 27, so Spoit's getting up there in age, and he's getting up there towards the end of his run in esports, and he really committed, it seemed, in this stage to being super competitive with Shopify, and it showed. They went 8-1. Their only overtime loss was actually to the worst team, or not. Their overtime win was to the worst team in the entire league, and Orgless Envy with JJ Blatz, and Shopify played really, really well. So they'll be the 1 seed NAL. Dark Zero was really good in the loss of Bolo, which there were a lot of questions there, but they pick up guys like Spirits, and they've really have a good team there. They still have NJR, still Pambazoo. Nafe is being the IGL for that team, and he's done really well in his job. Space Station has made a good run. They've really done what they were supposed to, but with the addition of Norse, they have really seems like separated themselves from the lower end of NAL and want to continue to be in that top tier as an org that has won a title before with guys like Benjamaster. And M80 has then basically become the old Beast Coast with Hot and Cold, Gunner, Diffuser, and Gavini. And then Kino has played really well for them. So their playoffs will be at the end of this week. It's going to be really interesting to see. But what I really want to get into is the man of the hour, the legend, the young buck of this generation, new, just turned 18, stopping. He has been unbelievable. G2 has made a resurgence. The former world champions have really taken over the European League, especially in this stage. Now, they didn't have the clean sweep that Shopify had. They do have a loss on their cards, but they were 5-3-1 with 3 overtime wins. And the last game of the season was really just a showing of that G2 was here to play. Beating Falcons in an overtime victory, and going through that game that was really just a roller coaster of a game. Stompin starts out really hot, and they win that first round, and they end up losing the second. And Stompin makes a huge clutch on basement third round where he hits a huge shot as Echo after the plant's gotten down, and it's a 1v2 versus the Monty, and they were able to pull that one out thanks to Stoppin. And then at the end, we're looking at 6-6 match point, and G2 executes a basement plant perfectly. They get the plant down, and you have the bug that's been in the game for 3 years now, where when you've just barely planted on the edge, and then for whatever reason, when you get the plant down, the diffuser like slightly edges outside of the objective, and so for the purpose of the game, it thinks that the diffuser has left the site. It's really no different than if you planted on a hatch and you shot the hatch and the diffuser fell through the hatch. The diffuser has left the site, so therefore the diffuser has been diffused by the defenders, and that happens on 6-6 match point when G2 is at a 4-3 man advantage. Clash is on really low HP, and they're basically in a spot where they're going to go up 7-6 really easily, and they kind of get screwed right there. We go through like the longest delay potentially, like felt like ever. That timer just kept going up and up and up. It was about 45 minutes to an hour, them deciding what they wanted to do, and they ended up deciding to replay the round. G2 ended up losing it, and then they're able to win 2 in a row, culminated with Stompin acing in the final round, and he was just absolutely terrific on Ash on the rappel, gets 2 key picks. They chase down a roamer in sight or below sight Valkyrie, are able to get the trade and eliminate her, and then he comes up the top square stairs, and him and Doki get into plant, and he covers the plant perfectly in a little 2-on-1. And I got to give credit for Stompin. That was just insane. And to go back and watch Jinxie and Mingo and Skite and all of them react to it, it was really emotional, especially for the guys that have really watched Stompin and his rise. He was really just a kid on Jinxie's stream, and then he became the GOAT of console, and in less than a year, it feels like he's become one of the best players on PC. Adam asks, is Stompin in the Mount Rushmore of the game? I wouldn't say yet. He's still got to win. You got to win majors. Spoit really, if he didn't have that major on his belt, he'd be viewed a lot differently. But he does. and so he is still kind of viewed in that elite class. But the same goes for Bolo as well. But Bolo's on that list. Fabian is on that list right now. I think you could argue Pingu is on that list, and then I would say a Brazilian is on that list. But as Shaiko is also on that list, so he's still got a long way to go. He's got to win a little bit more. But he beat Shaiko in his first ever match against Shaiko in the last round of European League, and G2 gets the number 1 seed. They'll play tomorrow. They will play the 4 versus 5 and 3 versus 6 to decide who gets to play G2 and Team Secret. But I think the pushback on them is really just a question of, is the league kind of weak? To put it into like sports perspective, it's almost like it kind of feels like they're playing in like the Eastern Conference of the NBA right now, where it's really just like 1 to 2 teams that are really elite. But in European League, there's about 3 of them with Team Secret, Falcons, and now apparently G2. They've really shown themselves. Doki has been incredible, especially this stage of European League. 3 MVPs. Loira has been really good as well. I want to give a ton of credit to Doki, a former world champion who is really taking Stompin under his belt. Stompin's the only American player in European League, and for an 18-year-old, I mean, think about this: you're 18, and you've been playing video games your entire life, in your room, at your home, lived in your hometown, hung out with your friends there, hung out with your friends online, and the moment you turn 18, you fly to another continent, move into a house with a guy you've really never met before to join a European professional team, and you have no friends there, you've never been there before, and to go into that and then still play at the level that he has, it really shows a ton of skill, and it's an unbelievable statement for Stompin to be in that kind of spot, and to be playing at the level that he is. I mean, he was very easily he's going to win Rookie of the Year in European Stage 1 without a doubt. But he's one of the best 5 players in European League, and that's a European League that is stacked with amazing players. You think of Shaiko, who's on that Mount Rushmore. Licky Fak, Solotov has been insane recently, but Doki's there as well. And then even Secret, they got Savage and Joom. So it's an incredible accomplishment for his first season of professional league to come in and join a team of Europeans, even though G2 is not really European. They've got 2 Brazilians. But to join a European league and to play at the level that he has, it's unbelievable. You have to give him a ton of credit. I cannot wait to watch what he does going forward. And for me, as a guy who loves to watch competitive Siege, it is awesome that the sport is delivering from a professional standpoint, at least, with the stories of Spoit and Shopify, and then with Stompin and G2, and even still, like, Brazil is still on top of the world until further notice. But given the state of the actual game itself, it's awesome to actually see good Siege, because you just don't get that anymore. Apparently, CJX came out and it is awful. It's putrid. I've watched a ton of Siege for a year now, and I've seen more game-breaking videos on TikTok, Twitter, whatever, in the past 3 weeks with this new CJX than I've ever seen combined. It's truly absolutely insane. The game is just broken. The game's gone. You had an operator in Castle literally taken out of the game because there's a game-breaking glitch that they can't patch. So they have to take him out of the game. And Castle is literally like one of the most important defenders for so many strats. Um, I mean, on Clubhouse alone, he is important on the two top floor sites. He's like imperative to have on the two top floor sites. What's up, Sven? Welcome in. It's just me today. Jack just got married yesterday, which he's gonna have a new look that you'll see a week from today on Sunday. And then Sanders is traveling, so it's just me today. I'm talking Siege right now, and then I'm about to get into OKC, and then I'm about to talk about what I got to look forward to. That's fair. Yeah, draft is going to be interesting. I assume you're talking about the MLB draft. That's coming up. It's this afternoon, I assume. Let me finish my thought on that. The game's gone. And to see good Siege and good competitive Siege, it's really it's awesome to see. I can't wait for the major. Can't wait for playoffs. Really, playoffs is really going to be really good, and it's fun to see. It's still fun to watch that, even if the game is just absolutely dead. It's so many cheating, both console and PC, and it sucks. Given that like the update is not bad, I really like it. The updated graphics are great. The new ban system is electric. I love it. I think it really changes up the way the game is played, makes it way more fair. Um, Puts you in spots where you can actually ban stuff to help you with your strats. It makes you play the game because your Cade can get banned, so you actually have to figure out ways to defend the hatches, to hold off. You're put into more stressful situations, which is what we play it for. And it just sucks because the game is just riddled with cheaters. But what can you do? You know, the new shield guard is supposed to be the most um, advanced anti-cheating software they've ever released, and it's absolutely terrible. So thanks, Ubisoft. Thank you very much. But shout out to Stompin. I can't wait to see how he plays in playoffs, and then it's going to be exciting to see how it goes when we get to the major. But that kind of closes out for Siege. The next thing I want to get into is I want to talk about OKC and the contract situation. So there was a huge outrage from a ton of people on Twitter, the media specifically. So the Oklahoma City Thunder won the title. They are the NBA champions, and yet they make off-season moves, and apparently those off-season moves are not good enough. And that makes no sense to me because I think they are good enough personally. So if you did not know, the Oklahoma City Thunder extended Chet Holmgren and Jalen Williams in the past week, both signing max rookie contracts worth over $250 million each. SGA was also re-signed to an extension, the max as well. That really, puts him in a huge class. In 2 years, he'll be worth $63 million a year. Chet Holmgren would be worth 44, and J-Dub will be worth 41. A lot of people were kind of like pushing back because they think it brings him into the second Abram conversation, which I get to a degree, but at the same time, it doesn't really. I mean, it gets him close, but if you think about if you think about the core of Oklahoma City, the core is those three guys. Like, without SGA, without Jalen, J-Dub, without Chet, this is not a team that wins a title. And while Chet missed a ton of games this season, like he is part of that core and what is part of what makes that team dominant. And for me, I think you can add pieces around that at cheaper contracts and rookies that can still be impactful and fill the role just as well as a Lou Dort, a Caruso, a Cason Wallace, an Isaiah Joe, a Hartenstein specifically, Aaron Wiggins, the other Jalen Williams, Jay Will. Um, that's going to be fillable, and they have the capital to do that. They have the draft picks to do that. That's not a worry there. They have 10 million draft picks going forward. You'd like to think they made good moves in the draft too. Like they really like Thomas Sorber. A lot of the OKC fans think Thomas Sorber is going to be able to replace Hartenstein immediately. So Isaiah Hartenstein could be a trade candidate, given that he'd be basically on an expiring deal next year, with just a player option. But it's a move. The two moves, like, they deserve to be paid. They won them a title, and I think like it changed. We had to rekindle our perspective because the overreaction is that, okay, well, this kind of screws them out of winning titles in the future. And for me, who cares? It doesn't matter. They won the title now, and winning the title now is good enough. Like that for OKC, like that's a huge accomplishment. It's not like we're talking about the Lakers here, or we're talking like we're in baseball. We're talking about the Dodgers or the Yankees. Like it's the Oklahoma City Thunder. We have to change our perspective here. Winning this championship is good enough for them for 10 years. I promise you, they would trade anything to have won this title, and they did it. And they still have all of the pieces next year. They're going to be able to run it back. And this is a team that dominated the Western Conference last year. And I mean, as good as the West is, and as good as it's going to be, they won 64 games in the regular season. They were able to win, 82 games all in all, or 80 games all in all, and like they dominated. They were truly they're unstoppable throughout the entire regular season. If anyone actually watched their games, they they were a team that I said throughout the postseason, in order to beat them, you have to play 48 minutes of really, really good basketball, if not perfect basketball. And that kind of showed throughout the postseason as well, that like the only times they would get beat is if one, they beat themselves, or the other team played incredible for 48 minutes. Think about the blowout loss to like the Timberwolves. Like you have to kind of put in that kind of effort to be in a spot to win games versus them, because with their defense, they can turn it on. I mean, they made so many incredible fourth quarters where they really just kind of took over the game and turned their defense into offense, and they're still going to have the same core next year. And so I think that's part of the overreaction. So now they have to get rid of pieces next year. No, these contracts don't kick in until next year, as in the year after 2026 to 2027 year. So this is the same group of guys next year. They can run it all back. They can make some changes here and there. I imagine they will. I'd be very surprised if Sam Presti ran back the same core of guys, core role players more specifically. I mean, I think Hartenstein is a player they would look to move in some way to get more productive from there. A big thing for them, like that's going to help them a ton, is because they won a championship, all of these role players are now more valuable. And they are now viewed in a completely different light. Like Cason Wallace is going to be in a spot in a couple of years where he gets a max contract. Hartenstein is an NBA champion, and so maybe he's a piece that people would want to trade for. Isaiah Joe, who's kind of on a long-term contract, is an NBA champion, and while he really didn't play much in the finals, he is going to be viewed as a champion, and that is something that not a lot of people can say, and so that's someone you want to get in your locker room. And that goes the same for Aaron Wiggins and Jay Will, and even Cason Wallace, Caruso as well. So like that's going to help them as well in the spot to potentially make trades. And while you would think it like hurts them and not being able to bring those guys back, I don't think it really matters that much. Because I mean they weren't going to really be able to bring them back anyway. Even if they had lost in the finals, like you think about like Gabe Vincent, like he was incredible in the finals with Miami against Denver, and he gets the big contract from the Lakers. He's disappeared. He doesn't exist anymore. in a lot of people's eyes. So they were going to be in that spot really regardless. Even if if they flamed out in the first round, I don't think it would have been any different because, this was a team that won 68 games. So they're going to be viewed in that light now that they're champions. For me, it just doesn't matter. They won a title. They did that. Now the guys deserve to get paid, and they're going to get paid, and I still think they're going to be really competitive. And, SGA's probably got another step in him. And then J-Dub and Chet clearly do. Chet he has superstar potential written all over him. J-Dub he showed in the finals, in the Western Conference Finals, he's got superstar potential all over him as well. So I'm not worried about the Oklahoma City Thunder. I don't understand the pushback. I don't understand them saying it's too early. They want to pay their guys. They want to make them happy. They want to leave, really no doubt going forward next year of what this group is going to look like. I think for the guys that, might be on the outside looking in that are on that team, it's going to motivate them a ton to play really well because, they want to get a contract eventually. And, if they play really hard for OKC next year, maybe they can. But I don't understand the overreaction to Jay Will and Chet's massive extensions. They deserve to be paid like that. J-Dub was going to get paid like that regardless. He played way too well in the Western Conference Finals and the Finals, and he earned that money completely. And Chet, with his potential, the guy's really only played one full season in 3 seasons in the NBA, and he's got superstar potential written all over him with how big he is and how well he's able to handle the ball. And then the defensive plays he made throughout the postseason were truly remarkable. So Chet he was going to get paid that regardless. So I don't understand the pushback on it. Those guys were going to get paid, whether they were getting paid in OKC, whether they were getting paid a month from now, a year from now, or whether they were getting paid somewhere else in 2 years. We're going to earn that money. There's no doubt in my mind. And think about the team. Another the pushback could be oh, what if they get hurt next year? With J-Dub, I don't know if that guy's ever going to get hurt until he's in his late 20s. He's so athletic, and he took so many crazy falls throughout the postseason and just got back up and kept playing basketball that I don't think that's really a worry for them. Chet's a worry in that, but Chet's battled through 2 injuries already with breaking his foot and then the back issues this year that I don't think they're necessarily too worried about it. And they've already seen him play a full season 2 seasons ago, so they know he's capable of it. And injuries happen. It's really nothing you can do about it. They're going to happen eventually with how long that they play these seasons and, how many games people are being expected to play. The injuries are going to happen. So the worry of paying them too early and then they go through something catastrophic, who knows? It could have happened anyway. And they probably still would have paid him anyway. That's kind of my counter to all of those arguments is, well, they were going to get paid anyway. And it doesn't really put them in a tough spot because they've got the draft capital and they've got now that they have champions on their team, they've got the pieces to trade for players that fit them and this mold of players going forward. And I don't expect them to be any less competitive. I think they've got a great chance to win the championship next year, but I won't be picking them because that's not how the NBA works anymore. It's a next man up kind of league, and it's really just whoever takes it that year. It's so hard to win 2 in a row now, and it puts a ton of perspective on LeBron's consecutive trips to the finals, and then the Heat winning back-to-back, and the Warriors and their dynasty run. It puts a ton of perspective in how hard it is to really continually reach the highest mountaintop And so I hope OKC does it next year as a Thunder guy, but I mean, I would not be surprised if it doesn't happen, just because of that's how the league is kind of going right now. But shout out to J Dub and Chet. They got paid. They deserve to get paid. Shea deserved to get paid. Although the 2K cover was terrible. If anyone saw that, that was atrocious. Al Horford is in the cover twice. It's hilarious. It's terrible. 2K just doesn't care anymore. But maybe will start doing so now that they're about to have some competition. Now that EA says they're about to make a college basketball game here in a few years, so we'll hope that gets better. But that's kind of it on OKC. That kind of will lead me into my next topic. I want to talk about what I've got going forward and what I've got to look forward to this fall. I'm going to be making a couple trips. I'm really excited. Is coming back. Football starts this month. We'll have the Hall of Fame game, and then we'll have preseason starting for the NFL, and college football starts not too long after that, and I cannot wait. I don't know about y'all, but football is it's an incredible season. It's the atmospheres, college, NFL, watching all the games on Sunday Ticket on 3 TVs, and um, college going to games and college game day, and it's just it's really something different about it. They really made in both leagues, the regular season is, because there's so little games, there's so much impact on it, and it's something the MLB and NHL and soccer with their 12 different formats and leagues and cups and all of that. And then, like I said, the NBA plays too many games, so you don't really care about the regular season. Excuse me. But for me, going forward, I've got full schedule on my plate. I can't wait. More than likely, start the year, I'll go down to Hattiesburg, Mississippi for Mississippi State's opener of the season. They'll be playing it at Southern Miss on ESPN on August 30th. I'm excited for that. Right now, the Bulldogs are favored by 13 points. People are worried about us losing that game. I personally don't see it. I hope we don't lose it, obviously, but I think if you're kind of putting us in the spot of, I like with the fans that I've talked to, if you think we're losing that game, then you've kind of let the recency bias take over. We just got a better roster than them, and it really, first game of the season, we should be able to handle our business down there, and I wouldn't expect any different. Did we lose to Toledo last year? Yes, but I think year 2, Jeff Lebby will be able to handle that at Southern Miss that week 1, and I'll be excited to potentially be at that game. Week 2, I'm going to be here in Starkville. We'll have Arizona State coming to town. That's going to be really exciting. I mean, that's the biggest game of our entire season. Arizona State in town on 6:30 night game. Coach Shillingham and Sam Levitt under the lights in Starkville with cowbells ringing, home opener. First game, first use of the new LED lights. That's going to be really a sight to behold. And I cannot wait for that. It's the biggest game of the season for me. Outside of the Egg Bowl, if there's any game I want to win outside of the Egg Bowl, I want to win that game. I think it would do huge for our program. Whether Arizona State flames out as we get later into the season and just doesn't play well in Big 12 play, like winning that game at the beginning of the season will be a huge momentum boost. It's very different to the Arizona game 2 years ago, which we won in a dramatic fashion, and then we realized Arizona was good towards the end of the year. Like, it'll be different because Arizona State's more than likely to come into this game ranked, and it's going to be a huge road test for them and a huge test for them in terms of how their season will go. They'll more than likely be favored, but it's a game I think we can win. And it's a game where I really hope we win. Sven says State has to beat Arizona State, but I doubt it. Yeah, the top 5 quarterback and 10 out of 11 on defense. They're going to be good. They're going to be really good. But I think we have to believe in Davis Wade, and I think we have to believe in our home crowd. It'll be the biggest crowd of the season, outside of the Egg Bowl, no doubt about that. And if we were to beat Southern Miss the week prior, I think it gives you enough confidence coming into that game that maybe we can be competitive. And we were competitive last year, even with that same Arizona State team that really turned into something. We were in that game, and I think we have every right to feel like we can be in that game and that we can compete in that game. I don't expect us to win, but I do really hope we win, and I would not be surprised if we win. I think, I just have a lot of faith in the home court and the home field against a team like Arizona State that hasn't experienced it before. And in a big test early in the season, maybe they haven't gotten going yet. And on top of that, like we should be as healthy as we're going to be, which injuries have been a huge question for us in the previous season so far. Um, I think it. I think we're going to be in a spot that we can hopefully win that game. I agree. Can we stop any run game? We'll see. Kim Scatterbo isn't there anymore, so there's some hope with that. But I think we'll have a decent shot against Arizona State. The next week, State host Alcorn State. But I, more than likely, am going to make a trip out to, shoot, I forgot the name already. Brian Dodd or something. Man, I'm going to be in Atlanta, Georgia, more than likely for the Georgia Tech Clemson game, with my mother, and I cannot. Bobby Dodd, that's right. That's gonna be a fun game because hopefully Clemson will have beaten LSU. I'll go from the second oldest stadium in college football to the oldest stadium in college football the next week at Georgia Tech, with the Tigers coming into town. Haynes King versus Cade Klubnik. It'll be a huge ACC battle early on in the season. It really kind of could propel both of these teams forward. And for Georgia Tech, if they were to win that game, it's huge in terms of their hopes to make the playoff, especially if LSU had lost to Clemson in week 1 and home at home. That'll be big. It's gonna be 11 a.m., which kind of sucks. Hopefully, it's not too hot there in Atlanta on that September Saturday, but it'll help a little bit with being able to get out of there and potentially get home at a better time. But I'm excited for that. I haven't been to Bobby Dodd in quite a while, so it'll be fun. The last time I went there was when Clemson was in town, and the Tigers won that game. So I excited to potentially go to that. Hopefully, I'll get to go with that with some of my friends as well who went to Tech. So that's where I'm kind of looking for at week 3. Week 4, I will more than likely be back here in Starkville for the Northern Illinois game. When they come to town, hopefully we're able to beat a MAC team this time, but who knows? Northern Illinois also beat Notre Dame last year, so that's really kind of nothing to roll your eyes over. It's a game you kind of have to lock in for. The following week, I will be at the Tennessee at State game, which I'm really excited for. Tennessee coming to town. It's the first time in quite a while since pre-COVID that the Vols have been in Starkville, and that should be a fun game, especially with Nico Imaliava gone. It kind of gives us a better chance. Tennessee was a team I kind of felt like were going to be my preseason pick to win the ACC because their schedule is just really bad, and they have they would have had a really good chance to go 11-1 this year if they had Nico. They have some like really workable games. They get Georgia at home. They have to go to Alabama, and they have to go to Florida, which those have been tough games. But outside of that, they would have played teams like us. They would have played Arkansas, Kentucky, Oklahoma at home, and Vanderbilt as well. And if they were able to win, one out of three in the Georgia, Bama, and Florida game, they're in a spot to be 10-2 and maybe go to the SEC title game. They would have been in the playoffs pretty much guaranteed at 10-2, even with 2 losses to Bama or Georgia, and they would have been in a spot to be pretty good. Now, basically, completely flips on its head with Nico gone. It'll be interesting to see what they have, and I think it helps us a ton here in Starkville, which Finn you talked about a little earlier. It's a game we should have a chance. I think it's out of the SEC games, this is the game we have the most chance for. Besides maybe the Arkansas game, depending on how that team is at the end of the season. But I'm excited for that game. Vols in town will be really cool. It'll be cool to see Tennessee Orange in Starkville. You don't get to see that very often, and I'm really excited for that. The following week, I'll make a big trip out to College Station. I cannot wait for that. I went there 2 years ago, and that's the best college football trip I've had so far. It was such a blast. Friends a big part of that. Had literally the best meal I've ever had at Casa de Brazil in College Station. Highly recommend it if you're ever there. And while the game was not very fun, everything leading up to the game was really fun. That meal we had was amazing, and leading up to the game was really fun. Chris Barton was announced as a starter, and that felt huge. It felt like, okay, we're going to be this would be fun to see. It'll be fun to his first start is in College Station at a night game. It could be like a huge story for his career. Unfortunately, did not turn out that way, but there were also big moments leading up to the game with Max Johnson and whether he was going to start or not. And they literally had in the pregame, someone came out onto the field that was not Max Johnson and was throwing footballs like he was warming up, and he was wearing a Max Johnson t-shirt, like his warm-up shirt, and it was like to fool State into thinking that Max Johnson was going to play that day, but it was literally not Max Johnson. And that got photographed, and it was on Twitter, and there was a huge story outside of the stadium. We thought it was hilarious. And so they ended up starting the third string guy, and that did not pan out going forward in the season, but it did pan out that day for the Aggies. Unfortunately, he kind of tore us apart. But again, everybody tore us apart that Zach Arnett year. And the fallout from that game was hilarious too. Jimbo Fisher gets fired. Zach Arnett gets fired. After that game, it was just hilarious. So we'll see. Maybe that'll be a similar story this year. Hopefully not. But that's going to be a night game as well. I can't wait for that. State at A&M and College Station. I cannot wait. That's going to be a really fun trip. The next week, I will be at an NFL game for a change. I'm really excited for that. I will be at Monday Night Football between Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills and the Atlanta Falcons. And in my predictions, Kirk Cousins. I think Kirk Cousins is going to start that game instead of Michael Penix. We'll see when we get there. But that's going to be fun. I haven't been to an NFL game. The last game I went to was Tom Brady's last regular season game. Buccaneers were in town. Tom Brady played the first half, and Desmond Ridder ended up beating the Buccaneers before they went into the postseason, and that Buccaneers team ended up losing to Dak Prescott in the playoffs. But that's the last NFL game I've been to. I used to be season ticket holders to the Atlanta Falcons in the Georgia Dome, and that was a really fun time growing up, and it'll be fun to be at another NFL game. I like them. I like college games more, but the NFL games are really fun. They still have a really great atmosphere, and then the level of play is really good. I've seen some great games in my life. Obviously, Drew Brees has been there a ton, but I've seen I saw the NFC Championship with Colin Kaepernick when they made the comeback against the Atlanta Falcons. I've seen Falcons win other playoff games before, and I've seen a bunch of great quarterbacks, Aaron Rodgers, Russell Wilson, play in Atlanta as well. So I'm excited for that. Monday Night Football. I'll be going with my buddies. We'll be in the rafters because the new Benz is um, unbelievably expensive. It's $220 just for one ticket up there, and basically the top row, the top rafter, which I get. Like, yeah, it's Josh Allen coming to town, and Monday Night Football, expensive ticket, but still, it's insane. And they try to get you with they have really cheap concessions there, but I don't really care. It doesn't matter to me because it's still way too expensive. But that'll be fun. Monday Night Football, get to skip 2-day classes, so that'll be cool. It'll be nice during October. And the following week, I'll be going to Florida. More than likely, I'll be going down to Gainesville for State versus Florida with some friends. I'm excited for that. I've never been to Gainesville. I've only driven through once and seen the outside of the stadium, but I've never been in the swamp. And I'm excited to be in the swamp. That's going to be an afternoon kickoff. So by that time in October, it might be a fade into night game come the fourth quarter, but it'll more than likely be sun out for most of it. Still, it's going to be that'll be really fun. Who knows how the two teams look at that point in the season. State could start the season 5-0 and be 5-1 going into that game, and they could very easily be 2-4 going into that game. And the same goes for Florida. Florida could be in a spot where they're potentially even undefeated, but they very easily could be 2-4 going into that game as well. They have a tough, brutal schedule, which I think helps us a ton. If you're a Bulldog fan, I think we might beat Florida because the weeks prior they play at LSU, at Miami, bye week, hosting Texas, going to College Station, and then they come back and play us. And I think that's a huge scheduling dynamic because then we go off a bye. They'll have played 2 straight weeks and then come in to play us, and they'll have played 4 straight really competitive games, more than likely with LSU, Miami, A&M, and Texas. And I think that could be potential, upset spot, potential letdown spot. If they win some of those big games, it could, change the way they focus in for that game. If they lose some of those games, it could be a huge deflator at that point, and I think it could really help us, which would be nice. Maybe pick up a road win. It'd be a signature road win. That's for sure. The next week, I'll be Texas will be in town, so I'll be there for that game. That'll be homecoming for us. I'm excited for that. The following week, I will not be going to Fayetteville, Arkansas. I will never do that in my entire life. I'll not be going to listen to Pig Sucky for 4 hours, but I haven't decided what I'm going to do that week. That could be a nice break weekend after, going to a football game for, at that point, let's see, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 straight, 9 straight weeks. So it could be a potential break spot, but I know I'm going to try to get to a game somehow that week. I just haven't really decided what that's going to be yet. But I'm not going to Arkansas. I can confirm that. No way. Unless we're undefeated. Then I'll consider. The following week, George comes to town. I might be at that game. I might also be at Clemson hosting Florida State in Death Valley. That would be really exciting. And again, that's another who knows how those two teams look at that point in the season. Could be a very different look for both teams. And then if I were to go to that game the next day, I would go, and I would, I disagree, Sven. I've never seen it, but I will not be going to Arkansas. I've heard too many bad stories from friends in college of it not being that cool I got no reason to go to that. Oh, okay. Baseball. Okay, that heard. I did not know that. That I'd be fine with. Maybe I could do that. Next season we'll see. Where was I? Oh yeah, I would be going to the Clemson Florida State game. If I do go to that game, the next day I will travel up to Charlotte and try to go to the Panthers hosting the New Orleans Saints game, which would be really exciting for me. Getting to see New Orleans, and who knows how we look at that point in the season. Um, who knows with us if we've built a big enough of a following that could be a interesting game for me because I've predicted that the Panthers are going to be 2-15 this year. So that game kind of has some huge implications, regardless of the expansion of this podcast. But that would be really fun. I haven't seen the Saints, and I don't think I've seen the Saints in a decade in person. So that would be really cool to see. And it'd be nice to skip Georgia coming to kick our butt. The following week, it's at Missouri. I probably won't go to that game. It's gonna be a night game. I'm considering it, but it'd be hard to do that. It's a long trip out there, and I know nobody at Missouri, so it would be more than likely a hotel. That's pretty expensive. And at that point in the season, we're almost getting to finals. So that's kind of outside the picture. Then we're on a bye week, and then we would host Ole Miss for the Egg Bowl. And I will, of course, be there for that in Starkville. So I'm excited for all those games. Going to be a really busy fall. It's going to be really nice to go to all those games and be able to talk about them on the pod, and talk about those experiences and the things that I saw. And I'm really excited to be able to do that and grateful to be able to do all that. So I'm really excited for that. And that kind of concludes everything I wanted to talk about in today's episode. I will be back on Wednesday. Don't know what I'm going to be talking about yet, but I'll have all that figured out by the time we get there. But yeah, that kind of does it for today's episode of Technical Foul. Look forward to seeing you all on Wednesday. I'll be solo again, and then everybody will be back in studio on Sunday. And we're either going to be picking up our NFL predictions, or we're going to be talking about the Group of Five and in college football and our predictions throughout the season. But that'll be decided, and I'll let you guys know what that is on Wednesday. But without further ado, thank you guys for joining me. Thank you, Sven, for talking to chat. Thank you, Adam, for talking to the chat, and everyone else that watched. And I will see you guys on Wednesday. Have a glorious Sunday, and Hail State.